Okay, so today we're gonna like really get into this movie review.
Okay.
There's review from MovieKaTicket.com. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah. It's a pretty popular site over in India for like movie tickets and reviews and stuff like that.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna get into this review of Bhaiyya Ji,
Okay.
which is this like Indian action thriller film that came out in 2024.
Okay.
And yeah, we're just gonna kind of go through the review,
Sounds good.
see what we think about it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I'm excited.
So yes.
This sounds pretty cool.
So the review kind of starts off and they talk about how it stars Manoj Bajpayee.
Okay.
Do you know who that is?
Yeah, he's a pretty big name over in like Indian cinema. He's been in a ton of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and actually he was in this movie Surf Ek Banda Kafi Hai back in like 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And it was super well received.
Oh.
It got like a bunch of nominations for awards and all that stuff. And the director of that movie is actually the same one who directed this movie, Bhaiyya Ji.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's like a little reunion.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I was saying, the review kind of starts on and they talk about his performance.
Yeah.
And how he plays this like really intense character named Bhaiyya Ji.
Okay.
And they say he's like powerful and feared, which like given Manoj Bajpayee's like acting abilities, that sounds like a pretty captivating thing to see.
Yeah, definitely. And like, just from what I know of him, he tends to play characters that are kind of like morally ambiguous.
Right.
Like not necessarily the good guy or the bad guy. Like they kind of exist in this gray area. And to see him play this retired criminal who like gets pulled back into this life that he's trying to leave behind, that's gotta be really interesting.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So getting into like the plot of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's about this guy Bhaiyya Ji who his younger brother ends up getting killed.
Oh, wow.
And that's what kind of pulls him back into this life of crime to get revenge.
Right.
And it's set in Uttar Pradesh.
Okay.
Which is like a state in India.
Mm-hmm.
And the review talks about how like the setting really adds to the movie.
Right.
And how it really emphasizes this like feeling of authenticity.
Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Like, I think setting is something that often gets overlooked in movies.
Right.
But it can be, like, super powerful in, like, establishing the tone and, like, the feel of a film.
Yeah, definitely.
And especially with a story like this where it's, kind of gritty and you have this guy who's caught between this, like, world of crime and, like, wanting to leave it behind.
Right.
Like, I think Uttar Pradesh could be, like, a really interesting backdrop for that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they use a lot of, like, specific locations, too. Like, I think they mentioned something about a highway.
Oh, yeah.
Like, being used to kind of, like, visually represent his internal struggle.
Yeah.
So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And yeah, it's not just about like Bhaiyya Ji's own like revenge story.
Right.
Like they also talk about how his actions end up inspiring other people to like stand up against this like criminal underworld in their community.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's like he becomes this like symbol of hope for them or something?
Yeah.
Like he kind of like sparks a movement.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder like, is that something that resonates with audiences because it's like reflecting a real world desire for like change in society?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just like purely entertainment because it's exciting to watch somebody kind of take down a corrupt system?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Like, people want to see justice being served, especially when it's like against people who are like abusing their power.
Right.
And like sometimes real life doesn't really give us that satisfaction. So it's nice to see it like play out on screen.
Totally.
Yeah. But I think also like on a deeper level, it does kind of tapped into this idea of like people wanting to see positive change in the world.
Yeah.
So I think it's a combination of both of those things.
For sure.
Yeah.
So Manoj Bajpayee's performance is obviously like a big focus in this movie.
Yeah.
But they also talk about Zoya Hussain.
Oh, yeah.
And her performance.
Yeah.
And they say that she brought like a certain vulnerability to her character.
Oh, wow.
Which like contrasts really well with Bhaiyya Ji's like intensity.
Yeah. I think that's really cool. Like when
Yeah.
you have like a really strong, like powerful character.
Right.
It's nice to have somebody who can kind of like play off of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And like bring a different energy.
Totally.
So I think that's a good casting choice.
Yeah.
For sure.
One thing that I thought was really interesting that they talked about in the review was the music.
Oh, yeah.
And they mentioned a couple of tracks like Baka Kareja and Chaka Jam.
Okay.
And they said that the music like really creates this immersive experience for the viewer.
Wow.
And that it like evokes the sounds and like the feel of rural Uttar Pradesh.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And I feel like that's like such an important part of a movie.
Yeah.
It's like how the music enhances everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and like even just reading about the music makes me want to go listen to the soundtrack.
Right, which is a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's doing its job.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then like lastly, they talk about the box office success of the film.
Oh, yeah. How's it doing?
So it's earned over 11 crore worldwide.
Wow, that's impressive.
Yeah, which is like pretty significant.
Yeah.
Especially for like this type of movie.
Yeah, that definitely shows that there's like an audience for this kind of story. Like people are interested in these themes of, like revenge and justice and like challenging corrupt systems.
Totally.
So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think overall it seems like Bhaiyya Ji is like more than just your average action film.
Yeah, it seems like it's got a lot going on.
Yeah, it has like gripping performances, social commentary woven into the story, and it's sparking these like really interesting conversations.
Yeah, it definitely leaves you with like something to think about afterwards,
Totally.
which is always good.
Yeah, so if you're like looking for an action thriller with like a little bit more depth, this might be the movie for you.
Definitely check it out.
Yeah. Till next time, keep exploring.
See ya.